Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. This is live stream number 981. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then we'll normally take a first look at a board game or role-playing game. And on occasion, I will share a live review. Yeah, so tonight, we're going to be diving on into Dungeons & Dragons Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse from Wizards of the Coast. Yes, it arrived on Monday. We are taking a look at it today, and I will keep my commentary about the circumstances behind the lateness of this arriving to a bare minimum, because I've talked about it enough, I think. I think you would agree with me on that as well. So that is what is on tap tonight. Now, if you are tuning in for the live first look at Planescape, I do want to make sure you're aware we do tackle the tabletop gaming news first around here. So if you're watching live, just kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. Make yourself at home. It's hump day. You're halfway to the weekend already. Now, of course, if you're tuning in 30 minutes or more after the show has ended, there will be timestamps. So if you're the impatient type, you just got to get to that first look, you'll be able to just use the timestamps. They are located in the show notes. And depending on the device you might happen to be watching this on, might be right there in the timeline of the video itself. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live show, so that means there is chat available. Now, it's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, maybe there's something about Planescape you want to get a closer look at as I'm paging through, because keep in mind, we're not going to look at each and every page of this trio of books. So if there's something you've heard about and you're like, hey, Jeff, could you take a peek at that real quick? Let me know. I won't do it, but you can let me know. Nah, I'm just kidding. Chime in. I'll do my best to respond. I aim to please. So you aim to please. I don't know if anybody's going to get that reference. It's right up there with the I don't swim in your toilet, so please don't pee in my pool. You see that on like ashtrays and stuff. Now we're going back a long time. We're talking 60s probably when that stuff was floating around. Anyway, we are going to dive on into the news. But first of all, let's see who we got in chat. I think I saw Kevin R. Smith as the first person out the gate. Yes. Yes, he is. We also have the Madman, one of our chat moderators, as well as Roger Prudhomme. Kathy Evans is here, and I think that is it at the... Oh, no, I knew there was somebody else. Flaming Huron, yet another of our chat moderators. And I would not be shocked if the third of our trio of chat moderators is also hanging with the gang. So hello, Sarah D, if you're out there. Otherwise, I'm just waving to nobody. You know, that wouldn't be the first time. All right, anyway, I do want to mention something, though. Please keep in mind, so if you're somebody who watches this stream fairly regularly, please give the video a thumbs up, because to help share the video with absolute strangers who might be interested in this content, YouTube likes to see engagement. So I know you can't comment on the videos while you're watching them, but if you want to get into the running for tonight's contest, you're going to need to do that. But you can thumb up the video while you're watching live. And I did notice last night, there were 8 likes to the video when I wrapped up that show. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. We had a good number of people who were in chat. Because I know there are folks out there who watch the stream live who just don't, they just don't engage in chat. Or maybe they're busy and they just kind of listen to the show. So I was a little disappointed by that, because I was like, whoa, 8? 8 likes? Did I suck that bad last night? I mean, I know I've got the sinus thing going on, so I'm kind of nasally a little bit, a little more than I usually am. But I don't know. I don't know. And Darius Termina and Hector Strafford are with us. Welcome to you both. So Kevin says we already beat it for tonight. Yeah, I would think we'll get a few viewers that maybe aren't familiar with the show chiming in tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about, doing my random musing stuff. There is one thing I am going to discuss relatively quickly. And then, of course, we'll have our brief intermission. I'm not insane. I'm not going to skip that. I mean, I don't want, a rebellion to break out if I don't share the brief intermission tonight. But we're going to kind of dive into... Yeah, of course, I'd show you the back. Planescape, a little quicker than usual. So I'm going to take a guess, probably about 35 minutes before we get on into that. Maybe even less than that. So just wanted to let you know that not a lot of random musings tonight. So let's jump on into the news, because arriving later this month from 3rd World Studios is Mission Control Critical Orbit. Here's the scoop. In the year 1972, Saga, the Space and Aeronautics Global Alliance, successfully completed the first ever hyperspace trip to Mars. But celebrations were cut short when the crew of the Mercury 3 rocket missed their re-entry window and an explosion damaged the ship. Now you must work together to bring the rocket and crew home safely. Mission Control Critical Orbit is an asymmetric, cooperative, roll-and-write, real-time rescue adventure. There's a lot going on there. One player takes on the role of the Ethernaut flight commander, and the other 3 players take on the roles of flight controllers. Each of the controller players have unique tasks that earn tools the Ethernaut player needs to restore oxygen and critical systems to the damaged rocket. If the Ethernaut can build a path with polyominoes before the 20-minute timer runs out, you win. But if you run out of time, the ship suffers a catastrophic failure, causing the Mercury 3 rocket to explode in orbit, and everyone loses. Except the crew of that rocket loses everything. Mission Control Critical Orbit is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in 15 to 20 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $40 when it lands in stores, or I guess we could say it blasts off on November 22nd. Sweet. This looked kind of interesting. So you've got one player who is, pretty much flight command. And then you have 3 other players who are trying to roll and write stuff so that they can get these polyominoes, which they're going to give to the flight command, who's then going to have to try to build a path from one place to another place to restore systems. And that sounds kind of cool. And it plays in 20 minutes? Could be very, very interesting. Although here's the one thing. I don't understand why it's the year 1972. Everything else is fictional. Why not just say, in the year 2049? I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange. Maybe there's a certain artistic aesthetic that they wanted to stick to for the 70s. I don't know. I do not know. All right, so let's see. Hector says, I'm engaging. Steve Bernier, and I thought I saw someone else just pop into chat. Maybe not. Maybe not. I did say hello to Indarius Termina. So yes, Steve Bernier is with us, so howdy to you. Thank you very kindly for swinging on in and hanging out tonight. So let's talk about some role-playing game news. Because the Adventurer Conqueror King system fantasy role-playing game is in the midst of a highly successful Kickstarter to fund a new edition. And I've got the latest from Autarch. Enter a world where empires stand on the brink of war and terrible monsters tear at the fragile borderlands of men, where decaying cities teem with chaos and corruption. Weeping innocents are sacrificed to chthonic cults, and nobles live in decadent pleasure while the realm burns, where heroes, wizards, and rogues risk everything in pursuit of glory, fortune, and power. This is a world where adventurers can become conquerors, and conquerors can become kings. Will you survive the perils of war and dark magic to claim a throne, or will you meet your fate in a forgotten ruin beyond the ken of men? The Adventurer Conqueror King system Imperial Imprint Acts 2 is a new edition of the acclaimed best-selling fantasy role-playing game. Within the pages of Acts 2, you'll find everything you need to enjoy epic fantasy campaigns with a sweeping scope. Whether you want to crawl through dungeons, experiment with alchemy, crossbreed monsters, run a merchant emporium, raise an undead legion, or conquer an empire, Acts 2 supports your playstyle. Built on more than 12 years of playtesting and hundreds of hours of methodical research and development, Acts 2 is a 3-volume D20 fantasy role-playing game with comprehensive mechanics that create a living, breathing world, one in which the rules function as natural laws and players are endowed with the agency only objective mechanics can provide. Do you seek adventures where bold conquerors become kings, where mighty mages build arcane towers to the sky, where crusaders erect breathtaking cathedrals to their gods, and where cunning thieves rule underground empires that span the continent? If that's what you want, then Acts 2 is for you. There is a short Kickstarter video, it's about 1.5 minutes, about the new Acts edition. So let's give it a look.
In an age of fading empires where chaos reigns, adventurers become conquerors and conquerors become kings. Welcome to the Adventurer Conqueror King System Imperial Imprint, the second edition of the acclaimed fantasy role-playing game. Built upon 12 years of playtesting and meticulous research, Acts 2 is the apotheosis of old-school fantasy gaming. No other game supports epic fantasy campaigns of such sweeping scope and majesty. Whether you want to crawl through dungeons, explore the wilderness, research the secrets of magic, run a merchant emporium, build a spy network, command a navy, raise a legion, rule a realm, conquer an empire, or even become a god. Acts 2 has the breadth and depth to support your playstyle. With Acts 2, the world isn't just at your fingertips, it's waiting for you to shape its destiny. Your saga begins now.
This project is rapidly approaching the 600% funding mark. In fact, last I took a peek, it is at about $275,000 in funding. You can reserve the 3-volume set for Acts 2 in hardcover, which will consist, get ready for this, of over 1,400 pages with PDFs for a $200 pledge. You can score just the 560-page rulebook, which will also include the PDF, for a $75 pledge, or you'll be able to score the trio of books in PDF alone for a $50 pledge, which personally, I think that $50 pledge is a rocking deal for 1,400 pages of role-playing. This actually runs through November 23rd. My understanding is the expected delivery for digital products will be soon after the project ends, with the physical books to arrive a year from now in November 2024. Very nice. Flaming Heron points out this seems like a better release of Acts. And of course, Kevin R. Smith has to rain on that Kickstarter video parade by saying the robotic AI voice kind of takes away from the fantasy vibe. One thing it appears is it doesn't look like there's AI art in this. And, you know, that's pretty impressive, seeing that Autarch is essentially a one-man team. He doesn't do the art, but... So, something I wanted to mention, and I'm sure there will be people out there who are going to comment on this. I am well aware of the author of this role-playing game, and when we wrap up the news, I'm going to address that. Because every time I share anything about Adventurer Conqueror King system, I always get comments about, oh, you know about the guy who wrote it, right? So we'll talk real quickly. We'll talk about that once I wrap up the news. So let's move on to our next news piece, because up for crowdfunding on BackerKit, not Kickstarter, BackerKit, for Goodman Games is Grimtooth's Old School Traps. Here's what I know. Produced under license from Rebellion, Grimtooth's Old School Traps features more than 150 traps suitable for your modern dungeon crawl. Every trap is explained, illustrated, and fully statted for immediate use at the game table. Curated by legendary trap master Grimtooth the Troll, this collection includes awesome engines of destruction, Delver Dicers, Character Crushers, Adventure Anxieties, Minion Munchers, Hero Haranguers, General Tricks, and other rare and dangerous hazards for use in defending Game Master treasures. You want it, and you need it. And if you don't order one, Grimtooth the Troll will hunt you down. Published as part of the best-selling Original Adventures Reincarnated line, Grimtooth's Old School Traps also includes scans of the vintage Grimtooth's Traps and Traps 2 RPG supplements first published more than 40 years ago. Readers will also enjoy essays and commentary on the importance and history of traps. The volume comes in 2 flavors. One is for Dungeon Crawl Classics, the other for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover of your choice with the PDF for a pledge of $44.99, or you can grab just the PDF of one of those flavors for a pledge of $26.99 through November 28th. Expected delivery is 2024. I'll be the first to admit, I had never taken a peek at any of the Grimtooth Traps releases. Ever. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, because I guarantee somebody out there knows far more about Grimtooth's Traps than I do. Weren't they originally for Tunnels and Trolls? Wasn't Grimtooth's Traps Flying Buffalo Games? I could have swore. I mean, I could be wrong, but I seem to also remember that the first few volumes, because there were quite a few, were very, very well regarded. And then I think the later volumes kind of lost a little bit of steam. So, very cool to see this. Glad to see we also have the original Adventures Reincarnated line continuing, because there were some people who were panicking because, if I remember correctly, Goodman Games wasn't going to sell them on their website anymore. They were only available through Amazon, or the exact opposite of that. I don't know. I would love the 7th volume, which is out, which is, I believe, $100 and change. Because I have the first 6, thanks to a very generous fan of the show who wanted to remain anonymous. And yes, I know I have not reviewed the Temple of Elemental Evil yet. So, Omanal is with us in chat. Good to see you, Omanal. Said they've actually backed Acts 2 and Grimtooths. And Darius Terminus says, Original Adventures Reincarnated is just amazing. Yeah, pretty nicely done. Pretty nicely done. The one thing that I didn't care for with the earlier volumes is they didn't have to reprint, I should say, every edition of the module that came out. It was sort of like, yes, I understand. There were 3 different editions that came out. So Flaming Heron says that the people are still going on about Autarch. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm going to mention something when I wrap up the news. Final news piece. The Th3rd role-playing game is here. That's right. It is released from the Gauntlet, and it is based on the titular podcast, I've Got the Skinny. The Th3rd role-playing game has arrived. Based on the award-winning audio drama, the Th3rd role-playing game is a game of folk horror and monstrous divinity. Its mechanics are based on the beloved Brindlewood Bay and The Between, as well as Apocalypse World. In the Th3rd role-playing game, you play custodians, employees of the Bureau for the Investigation and Assimilation of Stray Deities. In a world with tens of thousands of gods, your job is to track down the forgotten and stray deities causing trouble in the community and deal with them. Sometimes that means figuring out how a community can coexist with the god, and sometimes that means eliminating the god's threat in a more extreme way. Regardless, you're a pawn within an uncaring system, and will eventually be the target of a conspiracy that will try to use your work for its own nefarious purposes. The 163-page PDF of the Th3rd is available over at DriveThruRPG for $18. So if you are a fan of the Th3rd audio program, like I said, I think it's a podcast. I'm not positive. I've never listened to it. you might be curious to check out the role-playing game over at Th3rd RPG. Sweet. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Th3rd RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Th3rd RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. They're always at the top of the page. And that way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, as I mentioned previously in this show, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. And thankfully, there are a lot of folks out there who do utilize the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang. So 2 things I want to mention real quick as random musings tonight. And yes, Omanal says they were able to grab Vaesen for free over at Th3rd RPG. Yes, that was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. Omanal also points out they really like the stuff coming from Goodman Games. Seems to be written by people who love role-playing games and aren't hamstrung by corporate management. I find Goodman Games to be a bit tricky. I mean, I like what comes out from them, don't get me wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't be interested in providing coverage and trying to review stuff and things like that. But I think reviewers have a difficult relationship with that company. I'm just saying. Anyway, I was going to say, I have been kicking around the idea of, get ready for it, making a live show for members only and doing a members only section of this channel. Whereas the live shows would be available like a week later. And somebody floated that idea out to me, and they were telling me only good things. So I was like, because there are memberships to YouTube channels. So anyway, like I said, I'm floating it out there right now. I'm going to kick it around. If it were to take place, it would certainly kick in after show 1000. Fleming Heron says, do I get spiffy badges and emotes? Bob Gnarly is with us. I'm taking a guess that's the pronunciation. Welcome aboard, Bob. I think this might be the first time you've stopped on in. Asks if I can explain the Goodman Games versus reviewer headbutting. What it really kind of boils down to is, for the longest time, I don't think Goodman Games actually cared about getting reviews out there. I mean, that was kind of it. And then I reviewed some stuff. I reviewed some volumes of the original Adventures Reincarnated, but those were not review copies. Once again, those were sent to me by someone who hangs out and watches the show, who did not want me to reveal who they were. And I was like, oh, that's fine. So those weren't review copies. But I did review the Dying Earth, and it was kind of weird because they had no interest in like sharing the review. Like I did a video why you should play Dungeon Crawl Classics. And it's sort of like, that's what I mean. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, for a while they weren't sending like review copies to anybody. They were like, it seemed like they were firmly in the camp of, we just allow word of mouth. Word of mouth is what, you know, what built our business. And I get that. I completely understand that. And I didn't have any issue with them not providing review copies. I was like, hey, you know, that's okay. It's completely up to them. But when they did send me review stuff and I shared reviews, I was really surprised that they basically had absolutely no interest in sharing it with their audience. And it's something that always throws me off because the people who are most interested in hearing more about your your products are the people who follow your social media. Anyway, Bob says, strange because Joe Goodman seems to love the hobby so much. I think they like their niche and afraid to become the it company. That's a possibility. I've met Joe Goodman. I've said hello to him. I haven't really had, you know, long sit down discussions or anything like that. But personally, and I mean, absolutely no offense by saying this, but Joe Goodman strikes me as kind of a typical gamer. Maybe a little socially awkward. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just caught him on a bad day or something, but, you know. So Omenal says, yeah, that's weird. You're a fair reviewer. Like I said, you know, some companies out there, they're like, they don't care. I'll be the first to point out, I think it was Pinnacle Entertainment Group that for years was like, we don't need reviews. We had, word of mouth. We got the madman out there talking up our stuff. Russell Higgins is with us, as is Perkins Dearborn. I may have said, Bob Nurley says, yeah, he's definitely socially awkward. Yeah, I mean, maybe that, I don't know. Like I said, it's not, I like the company. I share news from them whenever they've got new stuff out. I just shared a Kickstarter piece. Sorry, backer kit piece. So yeah, I like them. Like I said, it's, as a reviewer, when you put in the effort to review something and give it a fair review, I don't want to say fair and balanced because I don't want to bring thoughts of that shit in anybody's head. But if, you know, you read through everything and, you know, sometimes you reread it and then you share a review and then the publisher's like, I don't care. It's like, okay. All right. So Bob Gnarly says, wonder why people are going to backer kit now instead of Kickstarter. Could be a completely different rate. Also, I don't think backer kit has, I don't think you have, well, you can do backer kit without a goal, I think. I don't know if you can do that with Kickstarter. I don't invest myself too heavily into the ins and outs of crowdfunding because still not a huge fan of crowdfunding. Kevin says some of it is Kickstarter's reputation for union busting. There you go. Fleming Aaron says, what I don't get is publishers not liking or reposting your reviews. I don't really get too many publishers who don't like my reviews, but I don't think it's me personally. It's just they don't bother. You got to keep in mind, too, we've talked about this, and I'm still going to get to the other thing real quick. But we've talked about this before. There are a lot of PR people for game companies who are really bad at their jobs. That it seems like the extent of their abilities is to, like, glad hand on social media and, like, pump up their presence. Anyway, so Bob Gnarly says, you always are a fair reviewer. I try. I mean, like everybody else, I've got stuff I like. I got stuff I'm not so keen on. And there are plenty of people out there who really love genres and styles and things like that, that I'm just like, eh. Bob Gnarly says, Frog God entire problem is Bill won't hire a PR guy. Oh, Frog God Games has other problems than just a PR guy. In fact, Frog God Games would need some what is it that you bring in? I know it's a PR team, but it's like when suddenly there's a big scandal. I got nothing against Frog God Games. I've never met Bill Webb. I don't know anybody from Frog God. I don't even think I've ever reviewed anything from Frog God Games. So, unless was Swords and Wizardry with them recently? I know it's Mythmere now. Maybe that would be it. There we go. Thank you, Kevin R. Smith, in case we've got the other Kevin floating around. Damage control. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I think they don't need a PR person. They kind of needed damage control. All right. So last thing I want to point out before we jump into the brief intermission. So those of you who are watching the news earlier, and I'm talking about Autarch LLC and Adventure Conqueror King system. Yes, I completely understand that the author of that game system tends to hold right-wing conservative views, that he once worked for Milo, whatever the fuck that ass clown's name is. He worked for his whatever company that was. So I get it. I understand that. And I say it time and time again. And I know there are people out there who do not appreciate it. And they dislike this about me. But I share news pieces and reviews from creators of all walks of life, all political stripes. As long as someone is not a convicted murderer or goes and invests in a lot of hate speech online, things along those lines, as long as they're not completely around the bend, like screaming and yelling that we should no longer have any police at all, I will share their news about a game because I can divest myself of that. Plus, here's something I try to explain to people and they just go, yeah, whatever. If you dug deep enough into the creators of every game that you've played, you love, you enjoy, you're thinking of buying, if you dug into the backgrounds of everybody who's associated with the creation of that product, you're going to find that in a lot of respects, they do not agree with your beliefs. That these people are not going to be like, oh, well, it's like a carbon copy right here. I don't know. Do people even understand what that concept is? What that phrase means? Carbon copy? Huh? It's like a scanned copy. So, Flaming Aaron says, I remember the hate that video got. It's much like Haunted West. Yes. I was like, Chris Spivey, I've talked with Chris Spivey. I interviewed Chris Spivey. I've corresponded a little bit on Twitter with him. He likes stuff that I do. I liked Haunted West. And there are people out there, oh, this guy's too liberal and he's racist and blah, 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 and on and on and on. And it's like, well, he seemed like a nice guy to me. He seems like a good person. I like his stuff. I think Harlem Unbound is fantastic. It is excellent. I think there's a 3rd edition of that in the works. I don't know for sure, but I think. Omenal says, shocker, people don't hold 100% of my views. So there you go. Perkins Dearborn says, Xerox copy. Duh. Flaming Huron says, is the game good and are they not human trash? I guess that's what's important. Bob Gnarly says, Judges Guild. Perfect example here. Sucks now, forever, because Junior ruined his dad's name. Yeah, right. There's some discussion of Janelle Jacquez in chat. Yes. She's having some serious health issues. So, and I believe doesn't have insurance or anything like that. So that's too bad. Yes. Anyway. So yeah. So I just want to point out, I share news and reviews of games and publishers from a wide swath. And if you follow the show, if you know me in any way, shape, or form, just even from my online presence, you know that I am a staunch liberal. I am. I mean, I'm not extreme left on some issues, but I'm a lefty. But I'm also old enough to know that people can share contrary beliefs on some things. It exists. So anyway, so I just figured I'd point that out. You may have noticed I didn't even think about this until just this minute, but I shared a news piece from Autarch, and then I shared a news piece about the Silt versus role-playing game, which is from the Gauntlet, and that is Jason Cordova's publisher. In fact, I think he's a co-author on this role-playing game. And he and Alexander, I think it's McCree or Macris, the author of Axe. I guarantee those two are night and day. But I share news about both. So anyway, Bob Gnarly says, I'm as left as I can get without throwing away common sense. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. All righty then. So yeah, it's about 40 minutes or so. So we're going to be getting into Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. And yes, I'm sure I'll get some hate because it's taken me this long to get to the brief intermission, which is also going to be a couple more minutes before we get into Planescape. But yes, there will be a timestamp for the rant. It wasn't a rant. Yes, I do always mark the timestamp for random musings. So, but you know, the unfortunate thing is a lot of people they don't even bother looking at the timestamp or even look at the timeline. And then they're like, I can't believe it was 45 minutes. It's like, well, take a look at the fucking timestamps. All right, so let's take a peek at tonight's brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
It's refreshment time, folks.
Taste that beats the others cold. Pepsi pours it on. Taste that beats the others cold. Pepsi pours it on.
I see you don't drink Wilkins instant coffee.
What about my future?
I hate to tell you, but you don't have a future.
Oh, marvel the Mustang, he's Gold Coast for real. Just saddle him up with spurs on your heel. The winding batteries.
Flat horse, do!
Marvel the Mustang, do we love you?
Ride him in a roundup. Run him in a race. The winner by a nose.
Marvel the Mustang, do we love you?
Get Marvel the Mustang by March.
Enter the cavern of unknown horrors. Listen.
What's that noise?
I don't know.
See the only existing specimen of a spider, bigger than a human.
Man, I better find out what made this creature so big. And find out fast, or we're all going to be in pretty serious trouble.
For shocking, skin-crawling excitement, meet face to face 50 creeping tons of black horror. See the spider.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
I have to chuckle because the spider, I remember airing on our UHF Channel 32 in the Chicago area, WFLD, which is now the Fox affiliate. And I remember it would be on the, Saturday afternoons, the horror movies, they would pop on. And I never forgot the sound of the spider, as Omenal points out. And my brother and I used to actually do that noise all the time. It's like, yeah, that's good for your voice. That's good for your voice box. Oh, yeah. But then it's kind of funny. It's like, that spider slapped me and knocked my glasses off. You mean spider? Yes, I remember that movie. I was not around when it first came out. Flaming Aaron says, wet that whistle, Jeff. All right, if you insist. So we're going to be diving on into Planescape. Stay tuned, because I am going to reveal how you can get into the running to win my copy of the alternate art edition of Planescape. Yes, this slipcase set right here can be yours. Johnny, tell them what they've won. Well, there's only one, so it's not them. Anyway, so stay tuned. I do notice Typical DM is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. Thanks for hanging with us. Seems like we got a pretty good chat going tonight. Anyway, tonight I am going to take a first look and page through Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. This 3-volume slipcase carries an MSRP of $84.99. I'll be the first to point out, I have noticed that the price of the slipcase set has actually dropped by $4 since the day it went on sale on Amazon. So it is available on Amazon for $50.99, at least as of this afternoon it was. And of course, you can also get the physical bundle with digital from D&D Beyond for $94.99. All right, all that said, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Planescape. A few things I want to mention before we dive on in. First of all, the folks over at Wizards of the Coast were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. Now, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's very, very important that you know that. Also, you may be wondering, well, geez, Jeff, why have you been sitting on this all this time? All these other people, they've had coverage out there for 2 weeks. Well, Wizards of the Coast decided, some reviewers out there were not going to get Planescape until well after it was on sale. I'm just saying. We're not going to look at each and every page of the 3 volumes that are in this book, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what you're going to find in each of the volumes. The 3rd volume is, to my understanding, an adventure. So if you're a player and your dungeon master has already picked up Planescape, or maybe they're bouncing around picking up Planescape, then I would recommend tune out when we get to that book. I understand the other 2 books are relatively player-facing and dungeon master-facing. Although, to be honest, I never really prefer to allow my players to see any sort of bestiary from a game I'm running. It's just me. It's just how I am. Just my style. All right, so we had the back here. Infinite realms of immortals and imagination. The outer planes brim with celestials, fiends, gods, and the dead. And they're all just a step away. Enter a portal to Sigil, the city of doors, a metropolis where magical pathways connect to every corner of the multiverse. From there, venture to the Outlands, the hub of the outer planes, and discover wonders beyond belief and adventures across reality. Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse contains everything a dungeon master needs to run adventures set in Sigil and the Outlands. I kept joking that Sigil and the Outlands just sounded like a band name from the 80s. Opening for Susie and the Banshees is Sigil and the Outlands. There are also new options for players who want to create characters prepared to explore the planes. Talks about the contents. We get the 3 volumes, we get a Dungeon Master screen, and we also get, I believe, a poster. So there we go. Here's our Dungeon Master screen. I guess we'll take a look at that first. Looks like we've got some Modrons on there. So a few things that I'm going to talk about. Number 1, I don't know really anything about Planescape. We were already long gone from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when Planescape came out. So we were already, I was running Call of Cthulhu. And as I pointed out before, it was about, I think 1983-ish, 82, 83, that was it. We were done. So here is the screen. So this is all new to me. And in some ways, I think that's a good thing, because I can approach this and review this from the point of view of just taking it from its own value, as opposed to, well, if I compare this, I like the artwork. This is kind of cool. Although I got to be honest, I think Modrons are silly. I do. I think they're just kind of silly. It's like, oh, look, it's minions. But I still like the artwork here. All right, so that is our screen. The other thing I was going to mention, okay, that's the adventure, we'll save that for last, is that I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the reason why I say that is because, as I had pointed out before, I was designated as a reviewer who is not a priority, I guess, for Wizards of the Coast. And it's kind of like, and I guess I have had people tell me it's because that I've got reviews that I believe are completely honest. And I talk about stuff that releases that they've had come out that I thought weren't very good, such as, I don't know, Spelljammer. And then, of course, there are also releases that I have really, really loved fact, I gave The Wild Beyond the Witchlight a 10 out of 10. I liked it that much. But I guess there are people out there, the powers that be decided, well, he's not a priority. We don't want him having review copies before these releases hit stores. So now I have already been told I didn't need to provide any coverage of this at all. That it was, we just want to give this to you, blah, blah, blah. So on one hand, if I provide a negative review, or if I give this, it's all right, there are going to be people out there who are going to say, oh, it's just sour grapes because Jeff's upset he didn't get a copy before it came out. And now that cost him thousands of views on his videos and blah, blah, blah. And on the other hand, I'm worried about giving this an overly positive review, because then there'll be some people out there who are going to say, oh, yeah, Jeff just, now he rolled over. He rolled over to Wizards of the Coast. So, maybe he's hoping that he's able to get on back, in the favored reviewers category or some nonsense about that. So Fleming Heron says, how about we just go with honest review? Well, that's what you get from me. But what I'm saying is I'm worried that people are going to think, oh, well, Jeff liked it. Yeah, he rolled over. Oh, he didn't like it? Oh, he's just pissed. Now, I have heard from people through the grapevine that there are reviews all over the place, as in positive and negative, which people are saying it's kind of unusual. It's the first time that they've seen so much of a wide swing. Now, I don't know if that's really true, because D&D, 5e D&D, let's be honest, we see reviews of people hate stuff and reviews of the same stuff people love it. So, Omanal says, people who listen want your opinion. Well, I would hope if you're watching this, you want my opinion at some point. All right, so let's dive on in. But I did want to point that out because, I'm pretty transparent with everybody. And I think if you are a longtime viewer, you know that. I believe in being transparent with the audience, with the folks who visit thegaminggang.com and such. Infinite doors to adventure. What is Planescape? Planescape is the D&D multiverse and so much more. Beyond the Great Wheel cosmology, detailed in the Dungeon Master's Guide, Planescape focuses on reality-bending adventures and aesthetics unbound from those of mortal worlds. Just as other D&D settings highlight certain concepts, but can host any genre of adventure or style of play, the same is true of Planescape. Adventures in Planescape campaigns often focus on the following themes: backstage of reality, everywhere at once, multiversal scale, no single truth, power and possibility, stage of contradictions, everything D&D. So get some information about using this book. So we have 3 truths. Infinite possibility doesn't mean infinite complexity. The residents of Sigil and Planar Travelers know the multiverse follows 3 basic principles. Reality's vast complexity and the limits of individual perspective might obscure these principles, but those with the time and patience to learn from the multiverse's cycles eventually realize these truths. What's at the center of the multiverse? Nothing. And everything. Owenall says as long as he doesn't criticize Disney or Warner Brothers, he won't have to worry about CEOs creating false accounts to attack him. Perkins Dearborn says if there's a wide swath of reviews, the product is likely full of content targeting everyone. Bob Gnarly says D&D Kitchen Sink. I think Bob Gnarly has a copy of this. So here are some of the issues that I've had recently with Dungeons and Dragons content. one of them is, so here we've got the character options, right? And this is one of the things that I comment about in a lot of reviews. Now, once again, please keep in mind, this is not a review. I just opened up the shrink wrap on this slipcase set. I know people comment on videos where it's a first look and they're like, oh man, that was a great review. I was like, no, it's not. It's not a review. Anyway, one of the things I find is that the official Wizards of the Coast folk, who are like the face of the company, you see their videos and all that other stuff, they're always like crowing about, all the new player race. Oh, it's incredible. Oh, you're going to, and then it's like 3 paragraphs. It's like, that's it. So a lot of times what I have found is that, especially with like the player facing content for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, is not what's advertised. So right here, these are our character options, right? So we got backgrounds, Gate Warden, Planar Philosopher. Okay, so those are 2. I mean, I'm not saying they aren't cool, and actually 2 pages. So better than, well, it's not a new species, so it's not 3 paragraphs. So here we have new feats, new magic items. Okay, new magic items, we had what? 2? Couple of new spells. All right, so now we're going to get information about Sigil. And the Outlands, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a big hand. I will say, I'm digging the artwork so far. I have to say that the cover art for that slipcase for the alternate art edition, I really like it. I like it's pretty cool. Bob Nurley says 5e is best mechanically, but worst for lore content of all the editions. Mechanically, I would say, just my opinion here, that Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is not necessarily an easy game to run. There is far, far too much ambiguity for certain mechanics that are in this game. So, Omanal says 500 episodes later after Jeff was thinking about not doing more live streams. Yeah, that's true. That was true. He's gained at least 7,000 subscribers for being open and transparent. No, it's because I paid for those subscribers. No, I'm kidding. I guess you could do that. It's like, seriously? I'm like, no. No, I'm not paying for subs. Okay, so looks like we're getting details about various different areas of Sigil. Now, these are the kind of things that I tend to find in 5th edition. It's one of the selling points. But Bob Gnarly says, Ed Greenwood is my Taylor Swift. I have met Ed. Ed is very nice. Ed is a unique individual. I don't know if I'd want to be a young lady nearby Ed. Just putting it that way. That's one of those guys who's gotten close to being canceled a few times. But he was super nice to me. He actually recorded a bumper for the podcast we used to do. And he's got this really distinct voice. This is Ed Greenwood. It was like, whoa. But I know a lot of people out there talk about how the 5th edition books just don't seem to have as much detail about these settings. And I think one of the reasons is that if you take a look at the different settings that have come out over the past few years, and so let's say like Eberron, Spelljammer, you notice that's it. It's the book, it's the release, like Spelljammer, it's the slipcase set, and then that's it. There's never any additional content. Whereas when you had TSR, there was a glut of content, and you just had loads and loads of releases that just really expanded on these settings. And that's what led to these love affairs that people have with the various different Dungeons and Dragons settings. At least that's what I think. And I think that's where some of the disappointment comes with these like remastered classic settings coming out, is that it's sort of like, well, okay, you've been demanding this, we'll give it to you, and then that's it. So Kevin R. Smith says Ed Greenwood has a YouTube channel where this young guy interviews him about Realms lore. Oh, wow. Flaming Heron asks, does Ed Greenwood write songs about his exes as well? Bob Murray says, Handsy Ed. Hey, you said that, not me. Yeah. Hopefully Ed has adapted and changed with the times. Manal says Ravenloft and Dark Sun really expanded those settings. Yes, and unfortunately, you'll, at least in the current climate, you'll never see 5e Dark Sun. Just not going to happen. So it looks like most of this book is dedicated to the area around Sigil. And it looks like we've got some different domains. But once again, I am liking the artwork. And one other item I will point out is that, at least with 5th edition, we do tend to get more content in the books as far as some of the splats that you would have seen, say, in 4th edition. I think 3rd edition was accused of it as well, that it was like, there's too much art, too much fluff, not enough actual content. I don't really see that as an issue with 5e D&D. Some of the problems that I have, and they tend to be repeated, is like with their adventures, there's a lot of adventure design where it's, oh, okay, players go do this. For one, it's absolutely linear, which I say all the time isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, because, you know, even though it's a railroad, you can have a pretty good time on the trip, right? Bob Gnarly says, Lamentations of the Flame Princess is the D&D Dark Sun of today. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's fucking bizarre. It's a little more twisted than I prefer my fantasy role-playing games. But I will say, I have reviewed Lamentations of the Flame Princess, just the core book. I think it's a really well done OSR retro clone. I will absolutely agree with that. And it's well presented, but the adventures and the creator himself. All right, so that's Sigil and the Outlands. Next up, and I think this is the longest of the books. See, that's something else that I got to point out. Now, as I mentioned, on Amazon, the slipcase set is $50.49. Memory serves me, or it's $50.99. For the page count for the slipcase set, I think that's pretty fair. $85 for the page count of these 3 books? I don't know. Bob Gnarly says playing Limitations of the Flame Princess would get you kicked out of a public place. Well, depending on what adventure you're playing. So here's Mort's Planar Parade. So this is our bestiary here. If you are curious about production quality so far, and I didn't go through like the credits and that because we have got loads of writers who have worked on this, loads of artists who have invested their talents into this. So, and I would butcher most of their names, I'm sure. But if you are curious about production quality, first thing I will mention is that at least with Sigil in the Outlands and now this bestiary, the paper stock is really nice, which is not something that we can usually say about 5e releases. But yes, very nicely done here. Now we'll find out when we get to the adventure. So, multiversal menagerie. Planar travelers often find mimirs invaluable to learning about reality and avoiding doom at the hands, claws, fangs, tentacles, proboscises, ovipositors, and other appendages of the multiverse's countless predatory and lethally grumpy inhabitants. Mort, however, isn't a mimir. A floating sky, I probably mispronounced that, but you know. Brian Gronberg is with us. Howdy, howdy. So, Roger Perdome says they commented on 2 of my other videos that he was impressed with the paper thickness. I'll tell you who tends to have really nice paper stock is Free League Publishing. We talk about that all the time. A floating skull with a penchant for speaking his mind and claiming expertise. Mort is one of Sigil's many unique inhabitants and an accomplished explorer of the plains. For the right amount of coin or a future favor, Mort is quick to offer his advice, insights, and commentary on the many inhabitants of the plains. This book contains useful data gleaned from Mort's stories and ramblings. Still, the plains are vast and varied, and what Mort experienced as true might not match all circumstances. Reader beware. So are they trying to tell us that it's possible that Mort is an unreliable narrator? Very possibly. Looks like we're getting some tables for the various different areas and encounters, but it looks like these encounters are just a D4. So we've got 4 of those. Then we are going to start getting into the creatures themselves. Archons, there we go. I think those are celestials. Dark Weaver, ooh, that's creepy. That is mighty, mighty creepy. Shattered Dominand? Shatterer, huh? Eater of Knowledge. Originally created by the Mind Flayer god brain Ilsen Scene, and now produced by some of that god's followers. Eaters of Knowledge are lumbering bipedal masses of squelching muscles and exposed brain matter. That's nice. That's pleasant. Gardenals. It's like these are also celestials. There we go. Here are our Modrons. Constructed on the plane of Mechanus, Modrons are partially mechanical beings that belong to a strict hierarchy. Each Modron dutifully obeys commands from the rank directly above it, and in turn acts as a supervisor to the rank directly below it, passing down commands from paragons of law to the lowliest monodrone. While most Modrons are the lower ranked base Modrons, monodrones, duodrones, tridrones, quadrones, and pentadrones, the upper tier hierarch Modrons hold leadership positions, maintaining order in Mechanus and the realms beyond. For more information on Modrons, see the Monster Manual. Bob Gnarly says, Eater of Knowledge, not even trying with the names now. Obenall points out, I like Free League, Cubicle 7 book quality. Game Master's Hobby is with us. I believe Game Master's Hobby's been with us for a bit. Sorry I didn't say hello to you earlier. All right. Time Dragons. Timey-wimey dragons. Faction agents. Doomguard Rotblade. Rotblades are the entropic levers, I guess we'll say, through which the Doomguard quickens the natural decay of the multiverse. These members wield weapons immense. I'm sorry. There's glare off the lights because there is a little bit of a sheen to the paper. These members wield weapons immersed in necrotic energy, which can turn their enemies to ash. All right. Nice. So that is the bestiary. Now, before we jump on into Turn of Fortune's Wheel, let me explain how you can get into the running to win my copy of the alternate art edition of Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. Going to make it pretty easy, and it's going to be very similar to just about all of my contests. First of all, number one, got to be a subscriber. Just have to be a subscriber to get into the running. Number two, please give a thumbs up to this video. I mean, I can't tell if you did or not, but do me a favor and do that for me if you're going to be joining the contest. Plus, of course, if you were watching live, you should be as well. Lastly, share a comment about what you are looking forward to most about the Planescape setting. Could be anything. Could be anything. But don't make it like a word. Make it an actual legitimate comment. So, at least give me a sentence or two. And I will randomly select a winner from those comments, and they will receive Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse, and I will ship this anywhere I can legally mail something to from the United States. Right? Pretty easy. Easy peasy. I will announce the winner when I share my review. Now, I will also point out that I am not reviewing each book individually, just like this first look, because I know that's a trick that content creators love to do with these slipcase sets for D&D because it bumps their views. I wouldn't do that because at this point in time, you can't get these books separately outside of the slipcase set anyway. So my review will also be of the slipcase set. I will not be reviewing individual books. And I will do my best to have the review done in about a week or so. I'm not going to knock myself out getting a review out quickly for this release because it's already been out over 2 weeks. So here we've got the adventure, and it is Turn of Fortune's Wheel, a reality warping planar adventure for the world's greatest role-playing game. So I do want to mention this is an adventure. So even though I know nothing about this, just crack this open. there are going to be some spoilers. So once again, I will point out, if you're a player and your game master has picked up Planescape or they're considering picking up Planescape, tune out now. It's going to be spoilers. Because for one, we're going to take a look to see what this adventure summary is. The story focuses on the characters correcting a multiversal glitch affecting them and the whole of the Outlands. The adventure begins with the characters awaking in Sigil, untethered from their lives and memories due to this unprecedented error in reality. So they have amnesia? During the adventure, the characters discover the city of Sigil and meet the Akanaloth information broker, Shemeska. In return for Shemeska's aid in recovering their memories, the characters must track down a missing Modron carrying dangerous information. Kill it now! No, sorry, no, that's not in there. This leads characters on a tour of the Outlands with the additional goal of recording their impressions of the plane using a mimer, a magical skull-shaped recording device detailed in Sigil in the Outlands. During their travels, the characters reveal Shemeska's role in their plight, recover their memories, and have the chance to stop a plot undermining the stability of the multiverse. So it almost sounds like this Shemeska may just happen to be one of our big bads. Bob Gnarly mentioned that Monty Cook just released a backer kit for the Invisible Sun Cube set again. Yeah, I knew about that. I kicked around maybe sharing a news piece, but I really have no relationship with Monty Cook Games at this point. Well, I never really have. I've reviewed a couple of PDFs, and I have actually interviewed Monty Cook. But sort of like, I don't know. The Invisible Sun was a big deal. Everybody was like freaking out about it. And then it came out and it was sort of like, okay. It says, oh, the amnesia shtick. Never seen that before. Hey, so you wake up in a tavern. It's like, yeah, okay. Bob Gnarly says they backed it, but $481. Holy shit. It's crazy. Well, Tessie Trekkie's with us. Hey, good to see you, Tessie Trekkie. Says it's $528 US if you back it at the full level. I'm sorry, that's just insane. That is just insane. I look at that and I think, imagine how much role-playing content you could get for just about any other game, including those from Monty Cook Games. So, all right. So part one, Schemes and Sigil. So it looks as if, now it's been a long time since I played the Planescape computer game, but it seems like they're going to play on that. Oh, I guess it is Mort who's in it. I was going to say they're using Mort. There you go. Bob Gnarly says the Monty Cook production is quite lit, though. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I'm not saying it's not looking pretty sharp for $500, but Kevin R. Smith says minimum pledge for the original Kickstarter was $200 US. That I remember, because I remember a lot of people freaked out about it. All right, just taking a peek through here. Now, I gotta say, pretty solid art throughout these 3 volumes. Now, funny enough, I like this kind of cartography. I think it serves its purpose very nicely. I've heard a lot of people complain about this sort of cartography. They feel that it's bland. I was like, man, if you think that's bland, you got to look at the stuff that we grew up with, right? Oh, here we go. We got to make sure it's that colored blue that can't be Xeroxed. I'm getting the feeling that this adventure is sort of, I would say, not overly serious, or maybe its tone is far lighter than many that we encounter from Dungeons and Dragons, at least from the artwork I'm taking a peek at here. Bob Gnarly says they like the layout of the Planescape books. This is pretty traditional from what we've seen with 5e. I mean, we have had 5e releases where the cartography was kind of bland, but I honestly don't see this kind of stuff being considered bland. Of course, obviously enough, if you are just getting the physical books, doesn't help that those maps are that small. So it's kind of interesting. Wondering how many parts, I'll go back to the table of contents. Wonder how many chapters this adventure has. It says chapter 10, but I think the first couple of chapters were just kind of, well, actually the chapters are very short. So maybe all 10 really are of the adventure. So this chapter is 4 pages. I would get the impression that the player characters are going to be bouncing all over the multiverse. Yeah, it looks as if each chapter, and it may have been a page limit that the authors were given, each chapter looks to be about 4 pages. And then, of course, I say that, now we get into a chapter that has quite a few more pages, it looks like. Although it looks as if this chapter is dedicated to explorations. So maybe this is, no, I was going to say maybe that was the final chapter, but no. Secrets of the Spire. Behind the Wheel, Part 3, Secret Realities. I think this adventure clocks in at 92 pages, if I remember correctly. Brian Gronberg asks, well, or points out, they're wondering how the level jump's going to work. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that too, because there's at one point in the adventure, I think it's late in the adventure, there is like a big, or maybe it's earlier in the adventure. Regardless, there's one point where the player characters suddenly make like a jump in levels. So I believe that the option is essentially, well, if you want, you can have these characters go about adventuring. In the meantime, you're just kind of taking a break from the campaign, or you just jump to it. Personally, I think that's kind of odd, but that's just me. I'll have to read the adventure and then I will tell you how well it works. Right, so this is our finale there. So yeah, okay, 96 pages. I thought it was 92. All right. And I would take a guess that all of our creatures are right here in the bestiary, and some of our new magic items and stuff right here. So that is a first look at Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse for Dungeons and Dragons from Wizards of the Coast. Once again, this 3-volume slipcase carries an MSRP of $84.99. You can get the digital bundle with the physical slipcase set for $94.99. And I would be remiss to not let you know that you can get the slipcase set on Amazon. Last time I looked this afternoon, it was $50.99 or 49 cents. One of the two. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera and I will wrap up. Don't forget, get into the running to win my copy of the alternate art edition, the friendly local game store edition of Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. If you jump to the end thinking, well, I'll just, skip to the contest part, you're going to have to find it. Gonna have to find it in the video. That's what I do. Make you go find it or watch most of the video to get to the contest. I do not do a timestamp for the contest either. Sorry. What can I tell you? I mean, let's be honest. Shipping this is not cheap, even if I'm just shipping it in the US. So keep that in mind. There you go. Fleming Aaron says, no timestamps for the contest. No timestamps for you. Of course, I will have a review of Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse in the very near future. I'm going to try to get it within a week and a half. I do have some other RPG stuff that is in the queue ahead of it. So tomorrow, change things up because I was going to share a first look at Shadow Network from Talon Strikes Studios. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do an unboxing video for that. Just a standalone unboxing video because tomorrow we're going to dive on into another slipcase set. That's right. We're going to take a look at Deep Magic Volumes 1 and 2 for my friends over at Cobalt Press. They were kind enough to send me this. This is the standard edition. This is not the limited edition. And we are going to dive on in and take a peek at this on tomorrow's show. Also, if you have forgotten or you didn't watch last night's show, next week it'll be Savage Worlds Week here on the Gaming Gang Dispatch. On Tuesday's show, I'll be sharing a peek inside Savage World Adventure Edition from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. And then on Wednesday's show, we're going to be diving on into Deadlands. So we're going to take a look at the box set here, as well as the Weird West Companion and the Weird West Pawns. Yes. And then a week from tomorrow, I have to get this box. This box is really heavy. We will jump on in and take a look at Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. Yes, this is the ultimate core box. It is hefty. And then we'll also be taking a peek at the Companion. So a week from tonight and a week from tomorrow will be jam-packed shows. I'll tell you that right now. You can tell. Flaming Heron says they really want to see Deep Magic. Mind you, they've already got the PDFs. Typical DM says, that's a honker of a box. Yeah, it's a banger, all right. It is, I said it before, it's got to be 10 pounds. It might be more than that. All right. And Perkins Dearborn, you're very welcome for the live stream. I'm here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. So thank you very kindly. I assume we've had a pretty decent crowd watching tonight's show. All right, that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you, because you're not only keeping me company, but you're also keeping each other company while I'm paging through a role-playing game book or unboxing a board game. But of course, I also know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate you taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Thank you kindly. Of course, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be. Of course, do me a favor, give this video a quick like. Takes you 10 seconds, not even. 10 seconds, that would be a long time. Just click that. 1,000, 1,000. Only takes you a second. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember, you got to be a subscriber to get into the running on that Planescape contest. And if you do subscribe, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review for Vaesen, the Lost Mountain Saga, and hopefully many of you out there took advantage of the free PDF of the core rule book that Free League Publishing was giving away Halloween Eve and Halloween over on Drive-Thru RPG. Hopefully you were able to take advantage of that deal. Alrighty then. So hopefully you swing by tomorrow and hang out with me when we take a peek at volumes 1 and 2 of Deep Magic. And of course, here's hoping all of you out there enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.